Title: The Boy Who Spoke Without Words. This is a story, and actually it's a movie that I wrote, about one disabled teenager. The story starts when he was maybe 4 or 5 years old. Both of his parents passed away, so he became all alone with nobody to take care of him. For that reason, the government put him in special homes for kids like that, maybe those who lost their parents, were abandoned by them, or whatever the reason might be. It's just a place for lonely children who have nobody to care for them. There, nobody communicated with him well because of his speech disability. He could not speak, the only thing he could do was make a few kinds of sounds, mimes, and gestures. Through all this he could express whatever he wanted to say to people. It was very difficult for him and also for the people who wanted to communicate with and help him. They found it hard to understand him enough to help properly. One of the main reasons he had the hardest life ever was this disability. Because of it, he also had physical disabilities, his body was not as developed as it should be for his age. Besides all this, his mind developed very slowly, not keeping up with his age. Though he was 12 or 13, he thought like a 9 or 10-year-old kid. That's why everybody in this school, even the children, avoided him. The school teachers didn't communicate with him well and didn't treat him equally compared to all the other children. But just because he had mental disabilities, he thought that everybody wished him happiness just as he wished happiness for everybody. He didn't even realize or see how they treated him differently. He was always happy, always helping everyone, always open-hearted, gentle, and with very beautiful manners. To help, he would do whatever others were doing. Even though they avoided him and didn't treat him well, he kept helping them, kept doing whatever he could for them. That's why he was a brilliant character. I truly believe he had a golden heart. This continued until he turned 7, when kids normally go to school. While all the other kids went to state schools, no schools would accept him because of his disabilities. They said he might scare the children, and nobody wanted to talk with him. The teachers weren't willing to accept him in their classrooms. Though there were special schools for disabled kids, since he was alone with nobody advocating for him, nobody wanted him. They just wanted to get rid of him to avoid spending money on his food and care. Between ages 7 and 8, they decided he was grown enough to earn for himself and live independently. They said they couldn't keep him or provide for him anymore, so they threw him out onto the street. This was the very first time this disabled kid, with all his disabilities and at such a young age, began his journey in this rough, tough, difficult, and very unfair life. It was the first moment he took his first steps into the hard, tough reality of the real world. As we mentioned, he had mental disabilities in his way of thinking. He believed every person was friendly and wanted happiness and good for him. So even as he walked along the road, whenever he saw someone having trouble carrying or lifting something, he would run to help them. Some people said thank you, and in response he would bow his head up and down or make sounds to express, "You're welcome." He continued walking for a long time until he grew hungry. When he saw someone selling burgers and hot dogs, he went and gazed at the food, staring with his big, beautiful eyes. The vendor asked what he wanted, but he just stood patiently, saying nothing. The man understood the kid wanted food and told him, "You need money to have this. You need money." He showed with his fingers that money was required. When the seller understood this was a disabled boy who couldn't speak, he assumed he was just another street kid trying to steal. He shouted loudly and rudely, "Go away. Get away right now." The little kid got scared and ran away without direction. Hungry and frightened, experiencing this kind of behavior for the first time, he ran until exhausted, then stopped to rest. Still hungry, he continued walking until he saw water running from a street pipe. Thirsty, he ran and drank, unaware it was unhealthy. Passers-by warned him not to drink it, but his thirst was too great. As evening came, still unfed, his stomach aching with hunger, he spotted half a piece of bread left on a bench, partially eaten by someone. Slowly, he approached it, moving faster as he got closer, happy to find food. Just as he grabbed it and took 2 quick bites, he was so hungry, people started shouting, "Thief! "He's stealing." People from the supermarket and others nearby all yelled at him to get away. Terrified, he ran. After escaping, he found a secluded spot near trash cans where nobody would bother him. Exhausted, he leaned against a wall and fell asleep. Passers-by who saw him sleeping there reacted with disgust, calling him dirty and a disease risk. They called the police to remove him. When police arrived, they grabbed him. He woke to find two big men dragging him toward their car. Frightened, he tried to shout but could only make small, weak sounds due to his disability. After half a minute of this, the police realized he was disabled. When they asked his name, he couldn't answer properly, just gestures and sounds. Understanding his situation, they tried to place him in juvenile detention or an orphanage, but no institution would take him. They claimed he might be a thief or carry diseases. With no options, the police had to release him. For the next 6 to 7 months, he was now 14 to 15 years old, he survived on the streets until he encountered beggars. Most were healthy people pretending to be disabled for sympathy money. Unaware of this, he sat with them, hoping people would give him money too. When someone actually gave him coins, the other beggars grew jealous. That night, after all the beggars were picked up by their organized groups, this was actually their job, two stayed behind, robbed him of his day's earnings, and left him with nothing again. That night, cold and hungry, he slept under a tree. The next day, desperate for food, he searched trash cans, eventually finding a chicken bone with tiny bits of meat still clinging to it. As he sucked the bone, tears streamed down his face, realizing this was now his life. Time passed, and around age 18, he saw street cleaners working at night. Approaching one young worker, he gestured for work. Surprisingly, this man understood and convinced his boss to hire him. For the first time, someone showed him kindness. They became close friends. With his earnings, they bought proper clothes and food. One day, he took his friend to visit his parents' graves. Kneeling between them, he touched their headstones gently and managed to whisper, "Mama." "Papa," the only words he could say clearly. He prayed for them with tears in his eyes but a smile on his face, grateful he'd finally found work and a friend. Soon after, he fell ill. At the hospital, doctors told his friend privately that he had terminal cancer from years of eating spoiled food. He had just months to live. When his friend delivered the news, the boy accepted it calmly. He gathered all his savings, 35,000 to 50,000 samani, and donated it to his old orphanage, asking that it be used to send other orphans to university so they wouldn't suffer as he had. In his final days, he asked to be buried near his parents. As he died, his last words, through gestures, were that his friend's companionship had been the greatest gift. Years later, his elderly friend still visited his grave weekly. One day, a group of young men arrived, former orphans who had become doctors and engineers thanks to his donation. They came to thank their mysterious benefactor. When they learned his full story, they all wept. Together, they prayed first for his parents, then for the boy who spoke without words but whose actions spoke volumes. The lesson? Even with disadvantages, we can still be the best version of ourselves. True goodness requires no words.